So I guess we're live now. Welcome everyone to Tech Hours for Science Base here. Um, just as the usual preamble here, there's a question mark up here at the front of the region that if you click on it will open a place to enter and vote on questions that you want to see answered. If you're watching from YouTube or Twitch, you can go to sli.do web address, and we have an event code that you just enter 55608, and then you can add questions and vote on questions through your web browser, even if you're not logged in World. See some new people dropping in. And while the questions come in, looks like we actually already have a question here. Let me see what the question is. Some people have been having issues with chat window scrolling up and disappearing. That would depend on the viewer that you're using, I guess. Without knowing which viewer you're using, I can't really address that directly. I will say that that was a known issue on some older viewers, and it might be. Don't think it was an issue on the 1B viewers because that was using a different chat system. It was an issue on the 2B viewers for a while because we replaced the chat system, but it should not be an issue on the most recent few 2B viewers, like since 2B 43 or so. I have personally not seen it since like before 2B 43. So if you're on a new viewer and you're still having an issue with it, let us know what viewer version you're on, and we'll take a look at that. Yeah, it was an issue for a while, Zulaine. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but is it still happening on your like the most recent staging viewer, 2B47, I believe? Well, okay. Yeah, sometimes you lose the bottom view. Yeah, that was an issue, but as far as I know, it was fixed. If it's still being a problem on 2B47, I'll have one of our developers take a look at it again. Probably the same developer who fixed it before. I've got another question coming in here. Can we more chat questions? Can we disable the chat auto scroll when you're not at the bottom of the chat? Like when you're looking up at previous chat. Yeah, that would be nice. It is kind of annoying that whenever new chat comes in, it automatically drops you down to the bottom. So yeah, well, that's probably not too difficult to disable it if your scroll bar is not at the bottom of the screen already. Make note of that. Yeah, I mean that's the longer you chat, the more likely the disappearing issue will happen. Yeah, that's the way it was before. But like we've been doing these tech hours, and there's a lot of chat happens in here, and I've not seen it happen before. So if you've got maybe it's just not enough chat, maybe it has to reach a certain level of threshold. So I'll have a developer just put in a ton of chat and see what happens, just like an endless stream, and see if they can recreate the issue. Maybe it only happens if you get thousands of lines in there. Yeah, I haven't had a problem on 2B47 either. So if there's an ongoing problem with there, well, it must be a lot of chat has to be in there. Let's see. We've got another question coming in. It's a break room question here. How many of the break room conference users last month were Mac versus PC? I don't know. I would have to look into that. I'm not sure. I guess I would want to know, would question why you want to know, like what is the underlying issue that you're getting at there with that. I don't have that information handy on me.
Sure. The sidearm here. I'm asking because last week I brought in a person who I'm trying to develop professional connection with from Second Life, and they said, sure, I signed space. I voted them to local host, and they said, by the way, I'm on a Mac. I went, ooh, ooh. But fortunately, I knew someone that brought some people in on a Mac, and they sent me a copy of their, what they had put together, the way of user documentation. So I gave it to them, and unfortunately, it didn't include how you just go in and allow an application to be installed on a Mac that's approved, but not in the Apple Store. So we had to look that up, and we found it, and they did it, no problem. So they're in, and we're at localhost, and I'm trying to show them this beautiful environment. And I said, by the way, scroll up and look at the gorgeous.
You're really breaking up there. Like I'm getting only some garbled
said,
stuff there, and you
now that
cut
you're
out
in,
completely. So I'm not sure where you were going with that, but your audio is really flaking out. Maybe you want to just chat the question. Yeah, everybody was hearing you breaking up. There's something wrong with your microphone there, sidearm.
Is it any better now? Is it any better now? No. No. You can't hear? Well,
anything would run it like WebGL would run on a Chromebook, as well as getting some garbled audio there. I don't think it's the time maybe trying to talk again. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there's I don't think there's a standalone version of Unity that runs on a Chromebook on Chrome OS, but it should be their web player should work, I would think. Let's see. So, as a reminder, if you have any questions, please throw them into in the Slido there. Just click on the question mark, enter your question. It'll automatically show up for us. And if you're watching, if you're just joining us and you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, then go to sli.do in your web browser and enter event code 55608, and you can add questions as well. And Cub is gracing us with his presence. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I also noticed that Cub's the only one sitting down. I mean, there's a whole row of chairs here. You guys don't have to stand. I say as I stand myself. Somebody in a spacesuit joining us. You like to show off, so you stand. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I ignored your instant message, did I? I don't recall getting an instant message from you. But you have me on Discord, so if you can always message me there. It's just a good reminder. We have a Discord, and I'm on there as just Joshua on the staff listing. So if you have questions throughout the week or whatever, you can just click on my name and send me a message. It's one of those things where it's I have Discord open all the time, so if a message comes in, I will see it if I'm at my machine. I'll probably even see it anyway because it shows up on my smartphone. Because that's like my mistress. I never go anywhere without my smartphone. as my wife chuckles to herself in the background here. Okay, so do we have any more questions? Any new questions come in? Let me check here. Yes, there's a question coming in. Progress on rewriting the sine wave entertainment calendar to stop using Google Calendar, so the direct TP event will work for all regions, not just featured regions. Yeah, that's something that we're doing some UI passes on. There's a lot of work going on reconcepting some of our UIs and improving their functionality and way that they're user experience them, because a lot of stuff that's in there that is kind of buried and hard to find and not terribly user friendly. So that's part of it. However, I will say that I did add the assembly to the featured regions should be in here. Yes, it is. So teleporting to this event at least should work now. And if there's any other regions that I need to add in the interim, I can do that. I believe somebody mentioned Greenland added. So yeah, well, I can put more regions in that featured list for the time being, just to make sure that those work. But we are revamping the whole event system. So at least getting here is less frustrating now. It's the ambient lounge. That's not featured currently. I see there are multiple events there. We'll have to go through and make a comprehensive list of what places are having events and are not featured. And for the interim, we can probably just put them all on the featured list. Jamie Lee is not using the question asker and is just putting it straight into the chat here. So we've got a question about why about adding functionality to groups. Why did you bother starting a group? Yeah, there's a lot of functionality that we're working on adding to groups. We kind of want to make it into like a more focused management system. We want you to be able to do things like make teams or subgroups out of it and be able to say, hey, start a chat with these people or with this group or just these subgroup of people from the group, offer them teleports, just a wide variety of ways. Put people to have those people in a group and then be able to interact with them. We want that group functionality to carry over into things like region permissions, which I think they do at a basic level right now. But we want to expand like the roles and stuff that you can have within those groups. There's a lot of work, some of it in the planning stages, some of it in the process of being reworked for groups. We want to expand the overall functionality of those to really be a useful feature. Right now, I understand it's kind of, yeah, I've got a group, but I can't do with it other than have people in this group and chat with them. Group notices, yeah. I mean, well, that's something we do want to be able to send out group messages. We'd like to be able to send. Probably the form that would take is mail. Is just tying into the existing mail system would be mail to a group instead of having to send it to one person at a time. So ideally, you'd hit new mail. Recipient would be a group instead of a person, and then you could send basically just be sending a notice that way. Yeah, you could send group gifts that way too if you wanted to, because the mail system already has an attachment feature on it where you can attach stuff to it and send it along with the mail. So if you wanted to send out stuff to your group, that would be that would probably be a very easy way for us to implement that. I know group gifts are all the rage for incentivizing people to be in your group and in that way. Amy says mail kind of sucks. Well, what would you like to see improved about it? Yeah, and yeah, Galen, group voice is something that we've been talking about also. We want to have direct voice to a specific person as well as voice to groups. Multi items in the mail. Yeah, we could probably do that. I was just looking at my mail here, and I've just got like a ton of mail that people apparently sending me stuff that I don't log in and check. Sidearm sent me a whole list of regions to including local host. Is that a region? Somebody has their microphone on and is like banging pots and pans around. Better ways to organize inventory. Yes, I agree. We definitely need better ways to organize inventory. Right now, it's just organized based on the category it was uploaded as by the creator, but it would be nice if we had like a tagging system. Probably would be the way to go. Is where you could tag it and then have kind of like Mail's label feature. I think would be a good template to kind of draw from. Is the ability to specify tags. You know, this is my clothing tags and my favorite shoes or whatever, and to be able to tag a specific item and see those items show up that way, even sub tags. Okay, sidearm. Localhost is a region. I guess I've never been there myself, but we will. I've got your list here from my mail, so I will add those after office hours. So just so those events work, because we do want people to be able to reach those events easily. But I don't know what events are going on in Mount McKinley, but I kind of want to drop by there and see.
Mount McKinley is the weekly country western music event right after Ziggy's.
Oh, okay, that explains why I've never been there. Not, country music is not my favorite genre of music.
That made me cackle.
Yeah, we'll add these to the list. I've got Greenlee, the Ambient Lounge, Alaska Mount McKinley, and Localhost. We can get those on the list easily. And there's probably a few on there that could probably be retired and removed because I don't think they're being used for anything. So I don't want the list to bloat up, unnavigably high. So I might prune a few off there, and then add some of these new. Actually, Localhost is featured already on there, so I don't need to do anything with that. And any events going to Localhost should already work.
Okay, besides that, it didn't work on Monday. It sounds like someone was on the ball. Yay!
Yeah, I don't know if it got
Localhost-
added. Yeah, I don't know if it got added recently or if the person who set up the event entered the name wrong, because that's something we noted earlier. Is the name has to be entered exactly right in the event calendar. And there's one over there, Geek Weekly, is showing up on here. So I'm not going to test it right now, obviously, or I'm going to jump out of the region. But I'll check it after tech hours and see if that's working. But it's in the featured tab, so it should be working for all events happening there. Yeah, Elephant in the Room, probably retired.
Who has the ability to add to the featured list besides yourself? Just curious.
At the moment, in any of our staff with database access, so I can do it. Adam can do it. Alan can do it. We've got some other developers with access who need access to the database. We get in there and do it. We're actually adding a way to set featured regions directly through Curator in an upcoming release. It's because it's something that's not just for us. Like, it's useful for us to be able to log in and not have to go in a database, but just go to the Curator and set it. But also it's very important for our for people who have white label grids and stuff, so that they can they can decide what their own featured regions are. So there's a lot of ongoing work on the Curator to add new management and administrative type features, and that's one of the things that some talk about taking 4K and 8K super high resolution photos. Yeah, that's something we would like to do. It's just it just needs to be updated to have an update to the snapshot tool. I mean, we've already got that dynamic resolution system in there. We could probably just use that to over-res instead of de-res, and just take a picture and then automatically push it back down. There's a lot of questions going into chat here instead of on Slido, so you guys should if you want to make sure they get addressed, click on the question mark at the front of the room and just type in your question there, and that way I get a nice list that I can go down and check off as I address these. Otherwise, I'm scrolling up and down in the chat history trying to figure out if I missed something, and no guarantees I'll see your question. There actually are some questions that have come in. How about constraining allowed region and object and avatar complexity in the main grid to alleviate viewer problems? Start the store over from scratch. I don't know what you mean by that, but we actually are doing some work for avatar and region complexity. There's actually some really cool stuff coming up for that, just because we know that there's a lot of issues with load times, which we want to get down. There's with frame rate when you have a lot of people in a region. Things like when people join the region, there still can be pauses as they're loading in those calculations that have to happen on avatars when they when they're first loading, like the tucking and the deletion and getting all their clothing and their body morphs and everything set up correctly. So there's work going on optimizing that. There's also work going on in improving the ability, improving the speed at which things download and load. We're kind of breaking things up into smaller pieces, and we need cases making sort of intelligent substitution, and those substitutions get increasingly more aggressive, I should say, as needed for performance reasons. Performance starts dropping too low, then we may start dynamically like turning off, high intensity shaders and things like that, replacing them with lighter, faster shaders and stuff. So there's a lot of work going on in terms of optimizing optimizing the complexity of things you see around you, especially things that might be far away and you can't see all that amazing complexity when they're 100 meters away anyway. Is it possible to change the underwater shader that's created with the water zone? We were talking about our default water zone. I honestly am not sure on that. I would have to look at it. Probably. You can also use things like if Aquas. We support Aquas, which is a really good water system, rivers and oceans like that. So you can get creative with Aquas as well. You're not stuck with our standard water system not giving you exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, Josh, I write my own water shaders. That's what I wanted it for. I want to put my own water shader on the water zone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure on that right off the top of my head. I haven't really done much with the water zone system, but I'll ask and see if there's any reason for that. I wouldn't think so. Yeah, I'll ask and see what's if there's a
Cool.
reason that's been disabled.
There's no hurry. It's just one thing I'm going to get to eventually, wanting to put my own underwater shader in.
Yeah, I mean that's great if you're writing your own shaders. That's really cool, and we encourage people to do that. But I don't see any reason why you can't use a custom shader on it. Is it like overwriting it when you upload it, or I mean, have you tried to put a custom shader on it?
Well, there is no option. You put a water zone in, and then when the avatar goes under the water, it changes the shader automatically. The only things you can do is you can put in a pool zone, and you can change the splash animation and the swimming animation, but you can't change the shader with the pool zone. There's no option to change that shader anywhere that I can find.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe something that's just not exposed then. It must be loading a default shader in the viewer. Yeah, that's. I'll ask around. I don't see why we wouldn't want to allow that. I mean, there's no harm in allowing that. So that's. I'll poke the developer who built the water zone and see what we could do to expose that information. But like I said, you can also download Aquas, which is probably got a lot more flexibility already. So that might be something you can just drop your own custom shader into on top of theirs as well.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Let's see what else we have here. A question for um, in Sine Wave Entertainment, who uses a Mac, and may they please write a FAQ section on how to install the client with the Apple Store workaround and how to change the camera view. Um,
Tree
we,
knows you one.
yeah, we have we have a couple developers who have Macs. We obviously have Macs for development purposes for building and notarizing the um, the Mac build and stuff, which is a necessary thing from Apple's perspective, like to even get it to install at all. But I don't think we have very many people who are actually using them on a day-to-day basis. I think most of us are PC developers. But
Okay, that was me asking that. And is my voice better now?
yes, you're
Yeah.
fine now.
So I invited a colleague into ScienceSpace, and they're on a Mac. We got them in. So the first thing that's missing on the Sine Wave Entertainment Support FAQ is how to install the Mac client. It doesn't include a screenshot of how to allow installing an approved application that's not on the Apple Store. We had to look that up separately. Once we got in World, we went to localhost, and I tried to show them some of the features, and they said, how do I move my camera up to look up? And I said, right mouse button drag. And they said, Apple mice do not have a right mouse button. And
I mean, some of them do, and most Macs have I think have a right mouse button emulator. Macs do have. I mean, that's been an issue for since long as Macs have been in.
okay, so that's fine. If maybe only 25% of the world uses Mac, and if ScienceSpace runs on a Mac, why isn't there the extra page that says, by the way, if you're on a Mac, instead of using Control, you use Option. When we say right mouse button, left mouse button, I have 2 Mac users. They haven't quit yet. So all I'm saying is you have 0 Mac user interface documentation. And
Yeah,
so it's a bit of a sore point because I was emotionally embarrassed. Okay. And emotions.
Yeah,
I use a Mac. And to install things, you just go to that installer and right click, select open, and there'll be another window asking you to open. It's just a Mac thing. You just need to know that when it won't open, when it won't launch, it won't install, just right click on it and you'll have a menu and it'll say open. As far as using virtual worlds, it's a prerequisite to have a 3-button mouse.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it's kind of Mac 101, like basically, and I agree we should have some documentation. I mean we have documentation for PC users and stuff like that, and I absolutely agree that we should have as much as we can put together for Mac users. But part of it is also, it's just standard Mac stuff. It's like this is just how to use a Mac. And I realized, people are at varying levels of, understanding how their machine works. So it's one of those things like he doesn't have a 2-button mouse or a 3-button mouse, and it's like, yeah, that's going to make things hard. It's really difficult to move around in a 3D space with one mouse button. So I would tell them, go get a one. But even like I had a MacBook Pro when I was in college, years and years and years ago, old model, and even it was just using the touchpad that was built into it. It had a right click function, so you have the ability to have. There is a right mouse button. People keep saying, "Oh, Macs don't have a right mouse button." They do have a right mouse button. I know really old Macs from 20 or 30 years ago only had one, but even even Apple quickly realized, there's just, not one mouse button is too limiting, and so they've had multiple mouse buttons for years and years and years, and you can plug in any 2 or 3 button mouse plug it into the USB port and go, and you've got those functionality. They have right mouse buttons, they have right click context menu, and maybe we should put someplace, on the installer.
As a
Hey,
system
we highly
requirement, yeah.
highly recommend you have a 3-button mouse. It's part of the Mac system requirements. But again, it's also built into every Mac. It may be awkward to use, as Jamie is saying here, because it looks like one button. Like I remember my old Mac had a touchpad and it looked like one button, but if you pressed it in different spots, you did get different reactions from it. And maybe people just don't realize that. Maybe not every Mac. Maybe a lot of Mac applications those is the same click. But again, a lot of this is just learning how you have a Mac, learn how your Mac works, learn what the capabilities of it are. But yeah, I think having some of those warnings on the system requirements someplace saying, hey, this needs 2 buttons or 3 buttons to really get the best experience out of it. And maybe we can have some links to, I'm sure Apple must have some guidelines, some guides someplace on how to use that secondary mouse button. But yeah, I'm happy to have some additional Mac specific facts on the wiki. I'm not saying we shouldn't have those, but I think a lot of this is just Mac users don't understand how their Mac works. Yeah, as Jamie says, Jamie Lee says, go to Walmart, Amazon, spend $10, get a mouse with more than one button on it.
Get one for £1 on eBay.
Yeah, you can get. I mean, it's not like mice are an expenditure, and they just will take any standard USB mouse, just plug it in, good to go there. So you don't want to use the touchpad, which I personally hate touchpads, whether it be Mac or PC or whatever. Those touchpads are not great for manipulating 3D space, for moving around, for changing the camera. The touchpads are just awful, and so I mean, I will use it for browsing the web, but if I have to do anything more intense than that on a laptop, I always plug in on. Yeah, I wouldn't go to Walmart right now, maybe, but there is Amazon. But in terms of Mac user onboarding, I mean the keep bringing up Breakroom, but Breakroom is just science-based. There's nothing unusual about that grid. It's just a separate grid, or somebody else, some other corporation's white label grid. There's nothing unique about the Breakroom that isn't identical to what's going on in. No, I mean it's corporations typically have their own IT departments. People know how their Macs work. The onboarding process varies, but typically what happens there is, if you're curious, if we're onboarding somebody to Breakroom, if they want to have a grid set up, then typically the way that works is we were responsible for that project within their group, and we teach them the platform, and then they teach the rest of their company the platform. So that's typically the onboarding process. Yeah, your sarcasm is well appreciated. Let's see if there's any more questions that have come in here. Would staff be open to community thrown staff appreciation party? Well, I mean, yeah, it's not something that we actually were talking about throwing a staff party the other day, just so kind of a working staff party, actually, just because we get complaints from from people who are like, hey, I went to a party and I had this problem or that problem, and oftentimes when we go to look at that problem, look at that bug report, we have a hard time recreating it. And so I was suggesting about a week ago that what we should do is just have a staff party, have all the staff show up and experience those parties, those events in the same way that users do coming into the events. Yeah, and I asked yeah, I asked Les and Jaden to look into putting that together. So you may want to talk to them about it. But yeah, to me, I think it would be beneficial to have that kind of staff party, not on a regular basis because it's we're all busy and have things to do. But if we could occasionally do that and get everyone together, and that way make sure that our experience matches your experience. People we were talking earlier about, it seems that like when there's a certain amount of chat, maybe on for hours or thousands of lines or something that we don't normally get during the course of using it, then maybe something breaks down at that, really.
Oh, yeah, talking about that, it's also something to do with resizing the chat box.
Yeah, that was an issue, but like I said, that should be fixed. I've resized my chat box all the time. Like I make it huge to do these events. It takes up like half of my my screen, and it typically hasn't been a problem. But yeah, I want to do those events just so we have to get in as a staff group and experience everything in the same way that the users are experiencing it. Music, the dancing, the chatting, the voice, everything as instead of taking isolated pieces and trying to diagnose them, I want to get in there and be like, okay, we're here, let's try to have some fun, but at the same time, let's see what people have been experiencing and see if it breaks down. So yeah, talk to Les about that.
We are trying to organize. We get a first date because of
You're kind of breaking up there. You're in and out.
We will put that up when we've got it all sorted out.
Yeah, and that's something. There's no reason the community can't come to as well. And maybe well, I mean maybe we can have community members do that, but still require all the staff to show up for for the same reason. It doesn't have to be us organizing it; just has to be us all being there to have that experience. So yeah, it's I'm not opposed to that. If you want to organize something like that, if you want maximum amount of staff to show up, that's something that would be a scheduling issue, just because we have staff all over the place who work all different kinds of hours and sleep all different kinds of hours. So I don't know what would be the best time for something like that. That's not something it's not something I necessarily want. Nothing we can make mandatory for people to show up to every event like that. But I would like to make it mandatory for everybody to show up to at least an event occasionally to experience that.
Is there an issue with numbers? Because, for instance, like here, half of the users in the assembly right now, I can't see their skins. They're just like zigzaggy line across them. I can see their clothes though. I can just not see their skins.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm on 2B47. Yeah,
I'm on 2B47
the Blue Man Crew
too.
is what we've been referring it to. It has the Blue Man.
It's just recently I was told that you could put over 1,000 avatars on the sim, but if you can't even get this many on the sim, I don't know how you can get 1,000.
That's different issues. I don't know who told you 1,000.
Adam.
But, we're working on a thing where we would like to be able to get up to that. It's something that we're hoping to start experimenting with over the summer here. But the issue with the skins loading is a separate issue from how many avatars can be in a the avatars in a scene is a bandwidth and memory issue, because every avatar that comes to a scene takes up video memory and system memory, and it's for high-end gaming machines. Maybe that's less of an issue, but
I've got 8 GB of video memory. I've got a high-end
Yeah,
machine,
but
so it is.
a lot of
is
a lot of people have two, you know, and so for that to be a viable working system, we have to make sure that um, for people who come in with 2 GB, of video memory or whatever, still can function in there, and that goes back to a lot of what I was talking about earlier with doing like those dynamic shader replacements and stuff, so that we can say if you're in a high capacity region, if there's 20 people here, no big deal, but if you start getting 100, 200, 500, 800, whatever, then we can really dial back the amount of video memory used. If we
oh yeah,
say,
no, it's good for
or-
that. Yeah.
yeah, if we say all clothing just uses this one super light shader, and and that way we can unload all of any custom shaders, instead of having, everybody comes in with 400 different articles of clothing, and there's 20 or 40 different shaders among them, doing different things, and those shaders a lot of video memory. So things like, we can say, okay, get rid of those, everybody's just using the shader, or we just don't show everybody if there, if 500 people in a scene, you can't tell the difference looking on your screen between 200 and 500. It's just a mass of people, and most of them are not going to be in front of your camera, they're going to be around you, so they're going to get called out anyway. And then there's bandwidth issues that are there. Avatar updates, somebody's walking around, we have to send those network updates from to everyone in the scene, say, hey, this person's walking over here now, they're over here now. And
Yeah,
so,
that's why when I was told 1,000, I thought that's an amazing achievement. But if you can pull it off, that is what will make SynSpace, because nobody else has pulled it off anywhere. Not that I have heard of. So
yeah, so there's a lot of technical hurdles there. Adam's been putting a lot of work into that. That's kind of his main focus right now. And it's the Blue Man Group is a separate issue. The that's just a downloading the skin and the avatar calculations,
oh yeah,
for whatever reason are stalling, and that's a local viewer issue, whereas the having a huge amount of avatars in the region is almost more of a server issue, but although there is a viewer component, but it's separate from that.
yeah. Adam said he was doing a lot of work on the mobile client that is to do with that. That's actually going to rub off on the main client because of what he's having to work out for the mobile client.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a lot of optimization work that's going into making the mobile clients, possible, just because, you can't just take the desktop experience and drop it on a smartphone or a tablet, and just let it go. It's not just user interface issues, but those machines just don't have the hardware that even a medium range PC would have. So there's a lot of optimization work. That's where the dynamic resolution slider comes in the settings. That actually was originally put in for the mobile viewer, but a lot of desktop viewers benefit from it. Things like the skin loading. There's some optimizations that are going on back there to skin loading that originally came from the mobile viewer. Obviously, there's still a bug or two to work out there because some of them are not loading. But yeah, that stuff all directly benefits the desktop viewer as well. All those optimizations are optimizations, and they go into the main code branch, which benefits all viewers.
It was Zulan speaking, by the way. The person's asking in chat. You can't see the thing. That's another bug. Because I'm using a full body replacement, the actual chat icons inside my head.
Yeah, we need to float that a little bit dynamically based. That and there's a couple of other things that need to float up and down more depending on what your avatar is. That's on our list someplace. It's just been a low priority thing to tackle.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. That means I can chat in secret.
I'm talking and nobody knows about it.
Oh, it's actually working now. I'm sitting in the seat. When I'm standing up, you can't see it there.
Yeah, that's because I think it's tied to your collider, and so when your mesh sits down and plays an animation, you're not taking up the full collider space. Let me see what we've got. We've still got 15 minutes here. Let's see what else we got coming in here. Cindy wants to know how to get 2B47 because she only sees 2B45. 2B47 is actually we have 3 places to download viewers, and I know that's confusing. We have the main download, of course, stein.space/download, which is for our live viewer, and then we have preview.sign.space/download, which is for where we put basically our release candidate viewers, like the going to be the next live viewer. That's where we tend to point people like, hey, if you want to try out a viewer that's not the live viewer, preview is usually the first up. But we actually have another one is staging.sign.space/download, and that is a much more experimental viewer. Like you've got 3 stages. You can kind of think of them as live, beta, alpha. And so we don't publicize that one as much, but it is out there for download. We don't prevent anybody from going there. Staging.sign.space/download will always have the most recent bleeding edge viewer, but it's not necessarily going to be something that is going to get promoted to preview. It may not. We're probably going to replace that one with a 2 before it goes to preview. So yeah, you're welcome to download and try it. The reason it's on there and instead of on preview is we made a big change to the scripting APIs, not our scripting APIs, but the scripting APIs that we're using. Wanted to make sure that that was not doing anything weird before we sent it up to preview. We changed the version of C# that we were using, the underlying .NET framework. So lots of crazy stuff came along with that. Yeah, that's very true. Carson is the 2B viewer is technically still like beta. It's a release candidate, not actually live yet. But it is generally much more usable than the 1B viewers. There's, if for nothing else, then there's a lot of optimization that's gone in there, a lot of crash fixes, things like that. So I know we have some people on staff, particularly like Jaden and Dixie, have reported that they're freezing, crashing, and stuff. Other issues that they used to have a lot on 1B have more or less gone away for them on the 2B. It's definitely good to encourage people to at least try it out and say, hey, this might be a better experience for you. We're hoping actually push that to live. We wanted to do it this week, but we're waiting on a fix from which they promised us was going to be in the next 2018 4 release from them. It could be .24, and once we have that, we think we'll go ahead and dump 1B entirely, and we're gonna throw like a party. Like that's the party we should have is dumping the 1B series viewer. That should be like a celebration. I'm actually just looking real quick to see if that came out today or not. No, they're still on .23. So as soon as we get .24 from them, we think we can make the jump. But there's a bug that they introduced in a recent version of Unity that's preventing us from upgrading. So as soon as they fix that, we can go ahead and upgrade and have that party. If anybody's still using Windows XP, I'm just kind of
Amazed.
amazed, astounded, a little bit confused. Yeah, no. If they're still using Windows XP, I don't think we can. If they can make it work, then more power to them, I guess. But we're not supporting Windows. Nobody's supporting Windows XP, so. If they want to try and figure out a way to make that work on Windows, that sounds like a huge waste of time to me. But go nuts, I guess. Like at this point, we're like, even Windows 7 is not even officially supported anymore by Microsoft. As of I think January of this year, they aren't even issuing security patches for it anymore. So it's like, well, what's that?
XP was in quite a few cache machines for a while. I don't know if they still got it in, but it was like 5 years after they shut it down, it was still in cache machines.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances where operating systems get or languages get purpose for something very specific, and then there's no incentive to change it because it's an embedded system and it works and nobody really has access to it. So it goes and goes for years and years and decades past when it was supposed to. I mean, think of the people who are still using COBOL. It's like that should not be a language anymore. Okay, Cub has an interesting question here. Is Sciencebase ever going to take advantage of virtual gaming machines such as online, Stadia, etc.? We would love to. We actually have been talking to Google about Stadia, but they keep telling us that their enterprise support isn't ready. They're way behind where they thought they would be at this point. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that, but NVIDIA also has their own version. There's a bunch of them out there, and yeah, we are very keen on this. Yeah, I don't know if Stadia has officially flopped or not. There's a lot of stuff behind there. Obviously, they're behind where they were supposed to, they wanted to be. They announced that Stadia was supposed to be ready to go at the beginning of the year. Obviously, that didn't happen. Updates haven't been happening as fast as the development community would like on that. They could have a whole conversation about Stadia. But that doesn't mean the product's dead. They could still finish it and put it out there. I think people are just wary because of Google's history of trying things and then throwing them away. Like I was personally very upset when Google Inbox went away. I loved Inbox, so now I had to go back to Gmail. There's tons of stuff like that. So yeah, we do want a system like that, and we are pursuing every opportunity on that. You actually may hear some more stuff about that by the end of this month. And that's all I'm going to say about that for the moment. Yeah, so there's somebody wants me to clear questions out of slide that have been answered here. So yeah, let's see that one. Auto scroll. I'll see if I can get to a few more of these. I know we're coming up on top of the hour here, so let me see if I can power through a few more of these here. Is it possible to ask a question here that my avatar jumping, turning, flying? Sorry if you addressed this already. Yeah, I think the issue there is the Slido thing that pops up is a browser window, and I guess our user interface isn't detecting that your mouse or your cursor is in the browser, and because normally what happens is when you click into a user interface element, we lock the avatar controls so that doesn't happen. But apparently that isn't being done for the browser. So I'll see if we can do that, because that's probably something that really should be in there. But detecting that the cursor is in that sub window might be a little bit tricky.
That happens with an awful lot of 3D software, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a really challenging thing to decide, dynamically when you should and should not be operating your avatar. I said generally we lock it out if you're in a user interface element, which is why it doesn't do anything typing into chat like our chat. But the browser window that comes up separately is something that we add an extra layer there to support. Let's see what else do we have. What scoring system do you use? Prioritize what to fix and add what bug feature report request list. I mean, we don't have a scoring system as such. I mean, obviously we have an ongoing discussion internally about priorities, and those priorities can shift. At the moment, most of our priorities are centered around, what is keeping us from putting the 2018 viewer out there? What can we fix to put the you know, and that's kind of our main priority right now. But those priorities can shift from day to day. We don't assign a score value to each individual task. It's just it's like, okay, for today, you know, this issue is a blocker that needs to be fixed. That's our highest priority today. You know, and then that gets assigned on a developer basis. Like, you know, what is my highest priority? What is Adam's highest priority? And then basically, you know, get those marching orders for the day and say this is what needs to be fixed today because this is a blocking issue. Somebody tackle this, you tackle this, figure out how to get us around that so that we can move on to the next one. Let's see. Requesting that in Friends tab and in the nearby people list an icon and a computer if the person is speaking, so you don't have to worry about camming around. Yeah, that's a good idea. I will. That shouldn't be too hard to add a secondary indicator for that. So let me. I'll put it on the list. It's probably not going to be a high priority feature, but I will definitely put it on the list for UI updates. We're actually in the process of the whole friends, and the friends window also contains the group window and all that kind of stuff, and that's part of what's getting completely reconcepted and rebuilt for the improved group functionality we were talking about earlier. That already answered that one. We already covered that one. Yeah, we talked about that one. Axe, underwater cameras, water shaders. Talked about that one. Is the position for the some kind of community manager / liaison between the main grid user community and the SWV development staff still open, and where is it listed? Any job position related stuff is going to show up on our blog. Other than that, I can't really say anything about that. There's, you know, about our internal hiring. There's if a position's open, we'll put it on the blog under a special tag for job positions, and probably put it on LinkedIn also. We talked about the party, how to get 2B47. Okay, so I'm getting like the most of the questions that are left, or there's like 3 questions about camera changes. Yeah, the camera changes. I know it's something that people have been asking for a couple months now for some new cameras. Like I said, we have been working on bug fixing more than new camera features, just because as part of the release, like I've been mentioning, is you know, at the moment our focus is, rather than adding new features and having to debug those features, and that pushes back release windows, is we want to fix release and get rid of 1B, which is a major obstacle, both for us for development purposes. It's an obstacle for platform adoption, for new users. Our highest priority is getting rid of the 1B viewer, and that mostly is centered around fixing bugs, chasing down crashes, things like that. We're actually working on some new crash detection systems that we're going to be running some intense crash analysis over the next couple of weeks. And so as far as new features go, as we have time, we're making some changes there. There actually have been some changes stuff in there, but it's not our highest priority right now. And I realize that's frustrating from a user perspective, because you know, you want those usability changes just as much as you want the stability changes. You know, both of those are important. But right now our main focus is stability, bug fixes, things like that, and dump 1B, and then all of the effort that's currently going into, and it's, I realize that sounds kind of paradoxical that we're putting effort into the 1B viewer when it doesn't look like that, where there's not been a 1B release in a while. But it actually takes up a lot of our time maintain the infrastructure that goes along with the 1B series viewer. And so when we can dump that, it actually frees up a lot of our time and a lot of our focus, and our priority can shift back to those new features rather than just fix. And Cub wants to know about multipose. Same answer. Fix it. We're more interested right now in fixing the existing
Curses.
functionality. Yeah, we're more interested in fixing the existing functionality. There's still some problems with seats synchronizing correctly between viewers, mostly when somebody crashes out of the viewer or teleports out while sitting. There's still some ongoing issues there with how that gets handled by the back end. Stuff like that is that is our highest priority is fixing those underlying core issues, rather than the multi-pose system is not just adding a way for you to attach new animations to the seat, which I think that part's already done. But then there's a whole set of user interface functionality that goes with that. So there, we have to concept and build that user interface. There's a lot of testing that goes on there. Networking issues. We have to make sure that if you change animations.
I think there's some rigid body issues as well with vehicles.
Rigid body issues. I'm not sure what you.
If you add another seat to a vehicle using the seat component, it's the same as any other seat, and when you sit down on the seat, it's supposed to remove all rigid bodies, but I think there's a problem with vehicles where it's not doing it, so the vehicle goes crazy.
It's supposed to turn off your avatar collider. Yeah, actually, we updated the seats recently.
It was an issue about a year or two ago, and I worked it out with Adam, and it was fixed. But recently, someone has just asked me in the Discord, and I think that's why they're having a problem. It's someone that's making a Humvee with extra people in it, and they said as soon as someone else sits in it, it goes everywhere, and it just reminds.
Yeah, that may be that may be a bug, or it may be we have a we actually changed it recently so that when you're adding components, just a regular standard sequence, that it now leaves seat collider on by default, and you can turn it off if you want to.
That's what they've done around. So that's a new feature.
If they're building a vehicle recently, they may be running into that issue. We grandfathered in existing content.
So it's a tick box.
No. Yeah, exactly. We grandfathered in existing content. So if there was content that was uploaded before we made that change, where the collider defaulted to off, then those still default to off. But new content that's getting uploaded, I believe, defaults to on now, unless you uncheck that tick box to disable the avatar collider. So that might be what they're running into, and they may need a.
Actually, it was John Nix that was having the problem.
Okay, well, he may need a new editor, a more updated editor pack than what he has then to see that tick box. If he's running an older editor pack, that tick box may not show up. So
he may have just missed it and not even noticed. So I didn't even know that tick box was there. So if I had, I would have answered him immediately saying it's that tick box. But
yeah. It got added as a request, and because we're like, yeah, why not give creators control over that?
No, it's a good idea. I think have control.
Yeah, so it just got added in there, and there may not have been like a formal announcement or something like, "Hey, there's a new tick box on the seat component" or whatever. So yeah, but you would need a more recent editor pack in order to see that tick box. So that may be part of the issue.
Yeah, I'm just going to text that to him so you can sort that out.
So if he's still having trouble with it, send me a message on Discord or something, or he can send me a message. And he's got my Discord address too. I've talked to him on there about other things. So if people are having trouble with that, send me a message and I'll look into it. But it should be a tick box that you can turn off, and it disables the avatar colliders. And that's one of the many use cases of where you wouldn't want it on, but there's also many you do want it on. So we're like, let's just give them the control over that. Let creators decide what that is off or on.
It's handy to know that myself as well, because I'm making a boat that's probably going to have about 30 seats on it. So
That's a lot of seats, but hey, two of
yeah,
those.
no, it's a motor yacht. It's got 3 decks, so and it's going to be a party boat. So it's going to be a venue. So
Oh, that makes more sense. I was thinking like those duck boats you see around big cities.
no, it's this
The
big one.
the ones that are like floating double-decker buses. Just everybody crammed into them, and then the bus just drives into the water.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever talk my wife into getting on one of those. I think we've cleared all the questions from the thing here. So, and it's we're about 6 minutes after the hour here, so I don't want to go too much longer here. But if anybody has any last minute questions or comments they want to throw at me, feel free. Yeah, if you can't find the tick box, or if it doesn't work for you, Karsten, let me know, and we'll look at that. Because there may be some other reason the vehicles are going crazy, but it should just be the avatar collider is on or it's not. Artemis is saying there's a crash problem with 2B47 where if you maximize sign space before logging in, it will crash on you. I'm going to try that right now.
I was having a few problems with some of the latest viewers crashing in a few weeks ago when I was having a problem with that region. I don't know if you remember, but yeah, what I worked out is when I'm experimenting with regions, they pretty much always crash on login, and the only way of getting in was having to log into a different region first. Once I'm inside the client and logged in, I can teleport anywhere without crashing. But it's definitely a thing that's to do with login and where you're logging into.
Okay, I've not seen that myself. I haven't had any login crashes with the 2B viewers for a while, and I'm not getting any issues with maximizing or minimizing the viewer right now. So if you have a specific use case, like if you can tell me, yeah, I always log into this region and crash, then send me the region that you're logging into. So just send me the the name or the virtual good ID for it. And let me know. Artemis says that they usually crash logging into the local host region, so maybe I'll give that a try. Pop over to localhost and see if I have any issues logging in there. But I haven't personally had a crash on login in a long time, so this is one of those things where it's like our developer experience not necessarily reflective of user experience. That's the kind of things that we want to know about, because we tend to test specific cases. And we can only test so many specific cases, whereas because we can't personally test every single region that gets uploaded. We for things like login crashes, because we would never get anything else done.
I think it was 2B43 that was doing it for me, but it's typical. It only doing it when I was having bug problems anyway. So I just want to get in, and it was crashing every time. Now I've got no problems. It's not crashing at all. So
we'll try it with 45 or 47, and
47's fine. I haven't crashed since I've been using 47. Yeah.
That's good to know, because like I said, we have been doing a lot of work on fixing crashes and general stability and optimization issues. And I know there's been some people who've been poking at the 2B viewers as saying, well, I don't see a lot different here, and that is because the stuff that's different is stuff that you can't. It's underlying code changes, optimizing algorithms. It's optimizing the way content gets streamed. It's fixing crashes and things like that. And yeah, there's no shiny new buttons on the user interface for that. And that can be frustrating sometimes. You're like, oh, new viewer, I don't see anything different. But hopefully, at least the experience is getting better in terms of, oh, I can log in reliably and it doesn't crash. For us, that's the important part right now is making sure that you can always get in and access the content and the features there. Before we say, oh, let's dump a whole bunch of new stuff in there that might have its own problems. Brasana says I couldn't get 2B47 to work. It said it could cause my computer harm. Was that on Windows or Mac? Probably the issue there is we had to update our security certificate. That's just something that has to be updated every couple years, and those security certificates they warn you until you get to a certain number of installs. That
You can click advanced. There's a little when you see that come up. There's a little a link. You click it and it'll open up to say bypass it. And
yeah,
you'll be able to
exactly.
install it.
Is all of those whenever you're comes up and warning you, there's always a way to go around the warning. It's like advanced or sometimes it'll just be a button that says continue away. It depends on where it's coming from, but I think the default Windows Defender one just has a little kind of obscure link. They don't make it big and flashy, but there's a little link like advanced. You click it and it'll give you an option. They install it anyway. I trust Sciencebase. But that should stop once a certain number of installs are reached on that new security certificate. That should stop warning about it. We've been in discussion with the various antivirus stuff. You have to submit stuff for analysis and they include it in their whitelist and that kind of stuff. So it's that's just because our security certificate had to be updated. They expire periodically. Let me see if there's any questions that come in. If not, no new questions on Slido. So I think we're gonna leave it there for now. We're approaching 15 after, and I don't want to go all day on this. As much fun as we're all having here. But thank you everyone for coming, and fireworks going off. Hurrah! Thank you for the fireworks. Those are awesome. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for questions, and like I said, we're hoping to get 2018 tour out to you as soon as you get us a fix, and we can throw away 1B, and we'll be having very different discussions in here, and talking about new features instead of
new bugs.
New features and new bugs instead of the grind of getting 2018 out. We'll all be very happy to have that behind us, and thank you everyone for your patience on that. I know it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating for us also, but we're almost there. We're almost to the finish line. A very different ride after that. And I will get those new regions added to the featured list so that those events work. Because we don't want to make it hard for people to get to events. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you all next week.